Here's the Velka Weather Hazards Outlook. This valid the rest of today, Friday through Thursday, April the 16th. Well, we're looking at generally spring overlapping the leftovers of winter. And to start out this Friday, the first thunder possibilities off to the west of us. We're trying to make it into the Champlain Valley. Also, some gusty Champlain Valley gradient winds out of the south, gusting as high as 40, 45, and even 48 miles per hour. This across the northern border area up around Alberg. So far, no reports of any wind issues, but we've been seeing some pretty high gusts here, very localized and mostly up into the north of us. We've also had some thunderstorm action, as I mentioned. We'll get to that in a second, but gradient winds will also continue on Saturday as this will be shifting from the north and west as the area of low pressure moves across Quebec and a little burst of winds with a trough of low pressure. It'll also probably be accompanied by some snowflakes in the air. Good project weather develops on Saturday night. This lasts into the day on Sunday as well as into Monday and probably as well as Monday evening. We'll see a break with a cold front working on through, producing some rain showers. Then some good project weather will return with another area of higher pressure building in late in the week. This will take place Wednesday through about next Friday, April the 17th. So kind of a busy weather pattern to start, but things eventually quiet on down. Let's take a look at the latest daily models. And what we're looking at here is the European model. We'll go through the dailies. So, starting out with this storm system that has been working on through, we have basically the last part of a severe weather outbreak in its weakening mode. It's working on through, a bit gusty. Winds generally shift to a southwesterly direction as we get into tonight. But we have that trough of low pressure as this area of low pressure departs, and this little trough swings on in, so we get stronger northwesterly winds during the day on Saturday, accompanied by a little bit of wet snowflake action. That moves on out. Temperatures remain a little bit cooler than what we're going to see today, Friday, and we'll get to that as well. We are looking at that area of higher pressure building in for some nice project weather. And basically, our next worries is just a kind of a weak cold front producing April showers. Nothing of any real substantial precipitation. This slides on through during the day on Tuesday. This will be followed by potentially some wet snowflakes in some of our local mountains as temperatures cool. High pressure then builds in for some pretty decent project weather once again. That area of higher pressure centered a little bit closer to us this time and should bring us some decent weather on basically Wednesday and Thursday, and it looks like that lasts into the day on Friday. The next shot of rain becomes a little more interesting with a pretty potent weather system potentially as we get into next weekend. We'll worry about that then, but a pretty decent stretch of weather with a couple bubbles of higher pressure. So this is the near-term forecast with a higher resolution computer modeling, seeing those thunderstorms trying to make it into the Champlain Valley. And just about the time they do, they fall apart. Still some briefly heavier rain showers move across the region. That'll take place a little bit later on Friday afternoon. And then from that point on, really looking at drying conditions with partial clearing later on tonight. It does look like we might even get a little bit of sunshine. Off to the north and west, you see that blue. That's some snow showers and flurries that are going to try to make it in. This is going to be developing later overnight and spread across mainly the northeastern, probably one-third of the state. So Northeast Kingdom, your northern counties will be mostly seeing that. And latest look at thunderstorm activity using GR Analyst 3. You can see it was moving across portions of the Adirondacks, and we'll look at the lightning here in a second. But nothing really of issue to worry about here as these storm cells are in the process of weakening. So no real issue. We'll take a look now at the Burlington version here, Burlington Radar CXX. So these are weakening, but again, they could have a couple lightning strikes associated with this, but nothing real serious. And this is the current lightning situation. Still getting some strikes a little bit north and west of Plattsburgh in the vicinity of a little bit south and west of Saranac Lake. These have been moving on through. We've had some across the Montreal area. And for the most part, these have pretty much died out up to the north and east of our region. However, we'll have to keep a close eye. This might cut through, and we could see maybe a couple lightning strikes in northern areas of the Champlain Valley today. Not really expecting a whole lot going on. There's a live lightning strike as we speak. Okay, antecedent conditions. Well, I mentioned that spring really is trying to push into the region today especially, and we're really going to turn a corner once we get into Sunday. However, we've had some 7-day snowfall total, 7 inches in my location, 8 inches up around Mount Mansfield, 1 inch up around Enosburg. Burlington's picked up about 3 inches this last week of the past 7 days. You can see the higher totals here, 12 inches around Sutton and so forth. What about snowfall? Rather snow depth? Still pretty phenomenal. 32 inches in Walden, basically in the low 20s, not that far from 2 feet up in our Northeast Kingdom Highlands, and so forth. A lot of snow has been lost, of course, in the Champlain Valley. It's been kind of back and forth with a net 0 in recent days. We still have some pretty decent snow across portions of southern Vermont as well, and even in the Connecticut River Valley. Okay, looking at the precipitation amounts, the heavier amounts in the course of the next 7 days to be expected. This is accumulated precipitation, 4-inch amounts, for example, in parts of the Gulf coastal states. And then pretty phenomenal Pacific Northwest getting bombarded by a series of lows coming out of the Gulf of Alaska. A little bit of a pattern change. This pattern change is what's going to be responsible for a warm-up and a better week ahead. Now, for our neck of the woods, we're looking at generally somewhere between a half and 1 inch precipitation totals, probably around a half. We're not expecting anything major here, as most of the precipitation, once it moves on out, we're not expecting much of a return except along about Tuesday. That's a pretty narrow band of precipitation in the form of rain showers. And how about this? This is maximum temperature anomalies. This is valid for the next 5 days. We actually go above normal in temperature. Wow. Shocking. Near normal off to the north and east, and looks like active weather, cooler than normal conditions, northern Mexico and the southwest U.S. You know what? It's their turn. It's our turn to get into some little bit of spring here, and it does look like it's going to happen. 3 days later, look at this. 9 degrees above normal. How do you like that? Just have not seen any of this. This is a real breakthrough system. Again, Pacific Northwest cooling down, forcing more ridging, and or actually a trough of low pressure here, forcing ridging downstream. So a little bit of a jumble pattern, neutral temperatures in the southern United States, but we're warming up here across the northern tier. GFS Ensemble shows just a little stretch of some wet snow, but nothing serious, and some dry weather ahead with a couple shots of decent areas of higher pressure now moving into the region. Another area will develop, and it looks like basically starting Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, late in the week, we have another nice area of higher pressure. Temperatures warm into the 60s by Thursday. Enjoy. That's it from here, Roger Hill, Wuthering Heights.